We were first introduced to the quantum realm in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2015's Ant-Man, and we've since gone back to it in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Given what we know about it, we're now expecting the mysterious subatomic plane to play a major part in this year's Avengers Endgame, courtesy of the fact that it will enable the MCU's heroes to traverse time in order to undo what Thanos did in last year's Avengers Infinity War.
What'd you do?
But could it play an even bigger part in the movie? Could it be that it provides the MCU with a new villainous threat? That's what this theory suggests. So, let's get into it. Marvel Studios has been exceptionally careful when it comes to avoiding giving away any major spoilers about Avengers Endgame. In fact, the studio's head honcho, Kevin Feige, has suggested that all footage used in trailers and TV spots will come from the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, and it's fair to say fans will have a hard time deciphering what ultimately happens from that. But there is another way for details about Avengers Endgame to make their way into the public domain, and that's by way of the movie's official merchandise. One piece of information in particular suggests that there could be a major plot twist in the movie, and it's the idea that there could be an additional villain to Thanos posing a threat to the MCU's heroes. It came courtesy of a leaked toy box, which had a description on it that stated, "The Asgardian Thor wields the mighty Stormbreaker in his battle against new foes." And Rocket teams up with a new crew to guard the galaxy from an even greater threat. Importantly, these two action figures were models of Thor and Rocket wearing striking new white costumes that most fans believe are quantum realm environmental suits, which in turn has led them to believe this dangerous new threat will be coming from the quantum realm itself. Now, if we go back to last year's Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, there was one scene in the quantum realm in which, if you freeze the movie at the exact right time, there appears to be an entire subatomic city residing in the micro-sized world, covered by a dome. Seriously, there's a skyline of skyscraper-type buildings and everything. It was literally only on the screen for a split second, and it's so easy to miss, given that it's practically hidden by the psychedelic special effects of the quantum realm. But there's absolutely no denying that it was there. So could it be that the quantum realm is actually inhabited in the MCU? If so, there's every chance it could be where the new threat we're going to talk about comes from. As we've already touched upon, we're fully expecting the surviving MCU heroes to head into the quantum realm and utilize its time vortices as a means of traveling through time to alter history. Especially now that we've seen Paul Rudd's Scott Lang show up at the Avengers headquarters in the Avengers Endgame trailer.
That's me. Can you buzz me in?
While they're there, they could very easily inadvertently come into contact with the inhabitants of that city. Which brings us to the important questions. What city is it? Who lives there? And could they be a threat to our beloved heroes going forward in the franchise? The surefire way of finding plausible answers to these types of questions is to look at the MCU's source material, Marvel's comic books. While the movies of the MCU aren't all based on stories directly lifted from the comics, they're always a good place to start when you're wanting to find out where the writers might have got at least some of their inspiration for what we see on screen. And in spite of what we just said, there really isn't a city in the comics that perfectly parallels the one we briefly saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So the next thing to do is look for the closest thing to it. We need to find a technologically advanced city which both exists in another dimension, or reality, and which is covered by a protective dome of some sort. Bingo! We think we know what it might be. Because, believe it or not, in over 65 years of Marvel comic books, there's actually been only one location that seems to fulfill that criteria, and it's the city of Chronopolis. In the comics, Chronopolis, which translated would mean city relating to time, is the main city base of the villainous characters Kang the Conqueror and Immortus, who are in fact both Nathaniel Richards, but from different time periods or different realities depending on the source. It exists outside of time itself in a mysterious realm called Limbo, and it grants Richards access to all the various time periods he's visited and conquered. The various different areas of Chronopolis extend to the ends of the Earth and the time period it exists in, and unless you find the hidden portals that connect the different blocks, it's actually possible to get lost in there forever. The more primitive time periods, such as those with dinosaurs, can be found on the outskirts, while the more advanced, such as those in the distant future, can be found towards the center. The landscape of Chronopolis is dominated by Richards' castle, which is known as Tenebrae. Hardly any comics have ever given readers a glimpse of Chronopolis from the outside, but the few that have given us a view from the outside have shown a city that definitely appears to match up with what we briefly saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp. We must stress that, as you can probably guess by the fact his surname is Richards, Immortus, or Kang depending on which version of the character we're talking about, is a descendant of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. So his movie rights likely lie with Fox as things stand. That being said, the deal for Disney to purchase Fox is in full swing, so there could be something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that would allow him to appear in Avengers Endgame. If not, at the very least, Avengers Endgame could show Chronopolis, specify the fact that dangers lie within it, and set Immortus or Kang up as a villain for Phase 4 of the MCU. As for Limbo itself, there are actually several locations in Marvel's comics with that name, but fortunately, the one aligned with Nathaniel Richards, Temporal Limbo, is undoubtedly the most interesting. It exists outside the time stream and thus possesses no time whatsoever, meaning that reality is comprised of a single, ever-changing moment in which everything that ever was, is, and could be coexists. While there are definitely some similarities between it and the MCU's quantum realm, they're certainly not identical. If time wasn't a factor in the quantum realm, for example, then Janet Van Dyne wouldn't have aged while she was trapped there for 30 years. However, Kevin Feige himself has commented that the time in the quantum realm isn't as straightforward as simply saying it exists there or it doesn't exist there. He pointed out that Ant-Man and the Wasp made a point of hinting at the idea of there being various levels to the quantum realm. We can only assume that what he means by that is that the deeper you get into the quantum realm, the more the laws of reality, such as time, gravity, and relativity, cease to apply. It's expected, therefore, that the surviving heroes of the MCU will enter the quantum realm in Avengers Endgame in order to use it to time travel. And according to Feige's explanation, they'll need to head to the very center to access that weird and wacky area that contains time vortices and whatnot. As will Captain Marvel when she time travels under her own power, something Samuel L. Jackson recently revealed that she could do. They will therefore enter a limbo-like reality, and that might tick off a certain Nathaniel Richards if he notices that, which could kick off a rivalry for the ages going forward in the MCU. Another potentially important fact is that Chronopolis actually appeared in 1998's Avengers Forever miniseries. It was a story that was just as crazy as we're expecting Avengers Endgame to be, with time travel featuring heavily. Avengers Forever revealed that Immortus served the Timekeepers, a group of guardians who possess almost unlimited power when it comes to controlling time itself, who saw themselves as custodians of the time stream, and who directed Immortus to destroy or break up the Avengers in order to preserve the timeline. Rather intriguingly, there is evidence that the Russo brothers are aware of this story, to the extent that some fans theorize that Avengers Forever would actually be the name of the upcoming fourth Avengers movie. So it really shouldn't come as a surprise if we discover that some elements of the story make it into Avengers Endgame. Another important point we should remember is that there's supposed to be a continuous narrative running between Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Avengers Endgame. With that being the case, both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel will feature setups for the upcoming fourth Avengers movie. An awful lot of that setup will be explicit, like Captain Marvel being powerful as all hell and the focus on the quantum realm. But in typical Marvel Studios style, it wouldn't exactly be a shock if some of that setup was a little more subtle. Ergo, the city we briefly saw in said quantum realm in Ant-Man and the Wasp could very easily end up being extremely important. The MCU is known for merging separate concepts into one, and it's already been theorized that the quantum realm is the franchise's version of the subatomic comic book location known as the Microverse. And if we assume it also has elements of Limbo thrown in, then the heroes of the MCU won't just need to enter the quantum realm in order to travel through time. They'll need to head right to the very heart of it, where the laws of time and space break down completely, and where history itself can be completely rewritten. And yes, sure enough, that would be where they'd stumble across Chronopolis, where Nathaniel Richards can be found, either in his Immortus or Kang the Conqueror form, guarding the time stream. The 2016 Doctor Strange movie already confirmed that the space-time continuum is fragile in the MCU. Benedict Wong's Wong warned Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange that he risked messing it up when he used the Time Stone to uneat an apple. As a guardian of time, Nathaniel Richards would already be pretty annoyed with the Time Stone messing with reality. So any attempts by the Avengers to mess with time so close to his home would really get under his skin. Should he find the actions of the the MCU heroes to his disliking, they could be in for one heck of a fight before they even get to Kang or Immortus, both of whom, for the record, wear advanced armor that makes Iron Man's look like an antique. Of course, this really is merely a theory, and it's based on the sole assumption that the Quantum Realm city seen in Ant-Man and the Wasp has a comic book precedent. But that's contradicted by the fact that the Russos have insisted that Avengers Endgame is a brand new story. So we could actually be a million miles away here. Yet it all seems so plausible. We only have a few months to wait before we find out if the theory comes into fruition. Avengers Endgame hits theaters at the end of April. What do you think of this theory? Could the Quantum Realm introduce us to Nathaniel Richards, the villain otherwise known as both Kang the Conqueror and Immortus in Avengers Endgame? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos just like this one. See you next time.